on the move.
They're bringing our chairs. Just hold on one second.
Never again.
Oh, and a table. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Grant, and I'm a creative director at Walt Disney Imagineering.
And I'm Diana Gross. I'm a writer at Walt Disney Imagineering.
And today we are here to, oh, thank you. Yes, you should applaud, Diana. We are here to talk about the Disney Park Stars. These are characters created just for our theme parks. And today we're going to talk specifically about the Park Stars of Walt Disney World for the Walt Disney 50th. And we thought we would dress as some of our favorites. So some of you might know. Does anyone know who I'm dressed as? Good. Okay. Then we're all going to learn something new. So I am dressed as this character, as my favorite character from when I was a kid. So this ride, if you had wings, oh, there you go. So if you remember, does anyone here remember If You Had Wings? Okay, good. So we rode this ride ad nauseum, and I remember this scene in particular stood out to me as a small child because it was just so silly and so funny. So what would happen is that guy would pose for a photo from his wife, I believe, and then right before she took it, the fish would shrink, and she would take the photo, and he'd be really sad, and then it would loop right back like a classic Disney attraction. And as a kid, I marveled at this because I thought, that's a joke, and that's funny. Like, I was always like, I get it. Like, that was a punchline and a setup, and I always just thought it was so clever. So anyways, I'm the fisherman from the Few Wings, and I'm gonna set this stuff down. This is very nice. But this will be donated to the Walt Disney Archives after this.
All right, guys, who am I?
Ahoy! Welcome aboard Misadventure Falls. This is your captain, Mary Oceaneer.
Awesome. So I love Mary Oceaneer. She is part of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which you guys are probably pretty familiar with. She's a treasure hunter, so she sailed the world and with her pet parrot, Duncan. A little bit of background on me. I'm from Wisconsin, which is completely landlocked, right? I have a pretty heavy Midwestern accent, and I'm a poor swimmer. So there's nothing more special about, dressing as Mary Oceaneer. It's a dream for me, just for one day.
And we were talking about this backstage, and I was obsessed with If You Had Wings and never flew on an airplane until I was 20 years old. So
this was total wish fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Imagineering, we always say it starts with a story. And so we're just going to give you a little bit about what that means in relationship to our characters.
Cool. So there's three things we want to talk about. The stories need a setting, a premise, and then of course characters, which is why we're here today to talk to you guys. We thought it'd be really fun just to do a case study to show the importance of our characters for park stories. So we're going to do one of my favorite attractions here. We're going to start with the setting, and the setting is Liberty Square. So we know that it's in North America. We're kind of going back in time. The premise is that we get to visit a spooky old house on the top of the hill, right? And then of course characters, 999 happy haunts. So I like to think about what would happen if we took all those characters out of the Haunted Mansion. It would just be
a dusty mansion.
A dusty mansion that you're chewing
Maybe my mother's worst nightmare.
Just the idea that there'd be no Madame Leota or Ghost Host or Hitchhiking Ghosts if it weren't for our characters for this attraction.
So let's get started with some of our Walt Disney World Park Stars. The way we're going to talk about this is we're going to talk about the role that these characters play in the story and kind of what their job is to do, so to speak. And so we would start with this guy.
Get a little hint right here.
Welcome aboard Spaceship Earth. Journey with us now to the dawn of recorded time as we explore the amazing story of human communication.
And so you always think of this guy as the original storyteller. This person is unofficially named Chief Umbade because he keeps saying it over and over again. We were at dinner the other night with Peggy Ferris, and she's like, oh, well, what are you doing with your presentation? I said, oh, we're going to talk about the caveman from Spaceship Earth. And she goes, oh, Chief Umbade? And I'm like, oh my God, you call him that too? So everybody calls him that. It's really funny though, he serves a really important purpose, an attraction about communication, the earliest form of communication, storytelling. And Chief Umbade is there to tell a story to his clan, and he's got the cave paintings behind him. And if you notice, we haven't really gotten much further than that because we're doing the same thing right now. And I always look at this later on, I was like, this is like the original PowerPoint. You know, he's just sitting there talking and the stuff behind him.
So we thought we found the original script of Chief Umbade, and here it is. So it's a little bit hard to read, so we did a little bit of research and found a new tool from R&D that we've just developed to help translate this. Yeah.
Google Translate is a very important tool if you deal with cavemen.
So anyway, when translated, it tells a really fun story. The idea that, you know, Mastodon was chasing them and they lit a fire and scared him away. And because of this, you know, they could be brave and explore new things and try new things. So Chief Umbade has a really important role because he encourages us to try new things and not be scared.
Which is a good story of progress that's befitting of Epcot. So our next character is also in Spaceship Earth. This is a character that, it might sound a little insulting, but he's the punchline character. And this is him right here. It is the Snoozing Monk. So this is another great setup gag, just like the Fisherman, where you're going across, you see a monk feverishly copying books, you come around the other side of the desk, and this guy's passed out. Again, super funny, but again, it tells the story of this was really hard work, probably very boring, and someone like me who can't pay attention for very long, it's probably not the gig that you would want to have. But luckily, 10 feet away from him, the movable printing press is being used. And after riding this many times, I always kept thinking that maybe that's what he was dreaming of, one day not having to do this because something would be invented. So it's a fun setup for a very kind of momentous part of our history. Oh my God, so now we go from the past of storytellers to the future of storytellers. This character is a really famous entertainer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cosmic Ray is proud to present the biggest little star in the galaxy. Direct from York City on the planet Zork, put your hands together for Sunny Eclipse and the amazing Astro Organ.
So Sunny Eclipse is also a favorite of ours. Whenever I'm out in the park, I always go say hi and take photos of him. He's great. He's there to provide quality entertainment with a quality meal at Cosmic Rays. But the fun part about it is that in the story of Tomorrowland, really, he's there to establish Cosmic Rays as this place for intergalactic entertainment. And he's super fun. And the other characters, of course, that are there with him are the Space Angels. There are no photos of them that exist, so we couldn't include them in the pitch, but we love Sunny, and we hope all of you do too.
So this one's a fun one. So we usually talk about characters that we get to meet and talk to and see, but oftentimes it's really fun to talk about the characters that tell the story who aren't there. So one of our favorite examples of this is over at the Boardwalk Resort, and it is Abracadabra. And as the story goes, this used to be a hangout for magicians way back in the day. They got together after their big show on the boardwalk, and it was a secret club where they would stay up all night performing tricks for each other and telling stories and having cocktails until something happened one night, and no one really knows what, but they all just disappeared. So these are disappearing magicians. Lucky for us, someone discovered the bar, right, and opened it up to the public, and now it's kind of celebrating these magicians. A couple of favorite details here. You know, since the magicians are gone, there's a little bit of residual magic that's left behind. So everything about this space is magical. One of my favorite drinks here is a conjurita. So it's a color-changing margarita. You'll see props that are left behind on the shelves from these magicians that just kind of magically disappeared one day. The posters changed, so you see the magicians coming on and off. And two of my favorite details are in the hallway, going to the restroom. There's a mirror, so the next time you go there, just wave to yourself in the mirror, and you might have a little surprise. And then the other one is, if you listen really closely, you might hear remnants of a magic show happening right by the stage door where they used to perform.
Wow, spooky.
Spooky.
Our next character is the Mentor. This one wasn't really much of an introduction, so die.
It's nice to meet you. And this is my assistant and could ride on, Figment.
I understand you're in charge of some very creative things.
I would think that would be terribly interesting. Right you are, right in there. Imaginations everywhere. The vision once inside your head exists inside that place instead. Imagination is my game, the sparks of which ignite the flame of your own creativity. And that's real great for you and me.
As a small kid, seeing the Dreamfinder at Epcot was amazing. And if you go upstairs, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen the Dream Catching Machine, but the cool thing about the Dreamfinder was his role in that show. And it really was this idea that he was kind, gentle, patient, understanding. If you listen to his dialogue with Figment, he's always encouraging him to try and do new things and not be afraid. And he's very often, to me, I view Dreamfinder as like your favorite school teacher. If you think back to your past, you probably had an amazing school teacher, and they were probably just like the Dreamfinder in many, many ways. Mine was Mrs. Freund. She was my third grade teacher, and she let me draw as much as I wanted, and she let me play with paper. Kids be out of recess, and she's like, Jason, just keep going. You don't need to go out there. And it was so great, and she was kind of my personal Dreamfinder, and it was really sweet. The cool thing about the Dreamfinder, though, is that he didn't start off necessarily as the Dreamfinder. This is a could have been park star, and this is the land keeper from the Land Pavilion. Some of you may have heard of Discovery Bay that was going to happen at Disneyland with a character named Professor Marvel, who's also sort of Dreamfinder related. But when Epcot was getting in production, you saw this model in a previous presentation. This version of the Land Pavilion had this character, the Land Keeper, and this was all about biomes. But when that story shifted to food production, then the Dreamfinder, if you look in this next piece, made his way over the Imagination Pavilion. And this is a really funny painting because it's a Herb Ryman for the Land Pavilion, but that character looks a lot like the Dreamfinder. Whenever I look at this, I always think that he's walking from the land over to Imagination. And so it's just kind of a really cool backstory and a little bit of history of how these characters are developed. But we got one more up next, and I'm sure you know who this is.
Well, you guys can't have a mentor without a mentee, right?
Two tiny wings, eyes big and yellow, horns of a steer. What a lovable fellow! From head to tail, he's royal purple pigment, and there, voila! You've got a Figment.
And as you I came to Epcot in 1982. The ride was not open. I bought a Figment plush. I was enamored and could not wait to come back and ride that attraction. And Figment is amazing. He's everything that we would want him to be.
Yeah, one thing I love is that he has a theme song that tells you exactly who he is and where he came from and what he's all about, you know. Also, just of course, that he's curious and playful and everything is new to him, so he's excited. And to us, he represents, you know, the embodiment of Walt Disney himself, which is perfect that he's kind of our new mascot for Epcot.
And of course, you've seen Figment take a larger role in all of our festivals, most recently in the Festival of the Arts, which obviously has been around now for a few years, but when we were designing that festival, we were really thinking, what is it about Figment that we want to bring to this festival? And the mosaic there that I hope a lot of you have painted at some point on a visit to Epcot was one of those things. And then even these scavenger hunts that we did with really famous, you know, paintings around World Showcase, we thought, you know, if Figment wanted to learn about a painting, he would jump right into it. And so this Monet-inspired piece shows Figment on the bridge, but we love the little detail of him waving back at himself because that's something that could only happen in your imagination.
Not like the detail of his little beret too. He's just playing the role.
So it's been a day of giveaways here at D23. Yeah. Oh, someone likes free stuff. Thank you for handling this so very carefully. You've probably seen this piece of art by Exitensio. Well, everybody today is going to get this, which is a reprint of the Figment #1 comic. But the cool thing is this is a limited edition with a variant cover. This Exitensio piece has been sort of reimagined by Marvel creative director Brian Crosby. And so it's a really great piece. If you've never read these comics, you really should. There's some of my favorite Figment moments in them. And this one's going to go into a protective sleeve. So we can save it for later. All right, so from one dragon to another, we're going to talk about the Legends of the Deep. This is a really fun one, and we have an audio clue for you. did have an audio proof. Oh, you must have got Brett's clicker. Of course, this is the sea serpent from Electrical Water Pageant. Tom talked about it earlier. Great show, near and dear to all of our hearts. The next slide is a fun one. It's an older image of the. There we go. Thank you. Whoever made that slide transition happen, thank you. It's an older image, but what's fun about this one is it's shot from the water. And when we were kids, we would stay at Fort Wilderness, and we would take the boats from the Magic Kingdom, and we would always try to time our trips so we would get stuck out on the lake when the show was happening, so we could watch the show from the lake and get these amazing reflections on the water. I highly recommend doing that if you can pull it off.
Cool. And then this is a really pretty view from the Polynesian Bungalows, but what's even better from the outside view is the view inside the bungalows.
So this is the artwork that we have inside the bungalows and the little Pullman sleepers that you can open up. And when we did this, we thought, what a great way to go to sleep with these like 4 cool dudes watching over you at night. But of course, not all Legends of the Deep are in the water. I know that sounds weird, but the next photo will explain why. And here's one that's stuck in the grass. So this is the Topiary Serpent at the Magic Kingdom. It's been there for a very long time. It's another one of the things that I like to say hi to when I walk around the park. And here's, by the way, I say hi to a lot of stuff in the park. It's really, and most of it can't talk, so. This is a great, fun photo of it with Alice in Wonderland and her friends having a tea party out on the lawn. And one of the Tweedles looks super concerned, and Di loves my bad jokes, and I told her it's probably not the dumb one.
New passengers, we welcome you aboard our Highway in the Sky and hope you've enjoyed the Magic Kingdom. We're traveling to Disney's